Hi everybody, and welcome to this episode of Beth's Best. Today we're going to talk about Disney Vacation Club or DVC point rentals. Is it legal? Is it worth it? And how does it work? Let's do this. Your home for Disney room tours, guides, and reviews. Hit subscribe and the bell. Hi everybody, so this is a bit of a change of pace. I normally just do room tours of the DVC rooms and the deluxe resorts here at Disney, but I've been getting a lot of questions about DVC point rentals. You know, people are wondering, is it legal? Is it worth it? How does it work? And I thought, I'm here at Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort and Spa. It's a long name. I'm here actually in a room that I booked through my friends over at David's Vacation Club Rentals. And so I thought, let's make a video because I actually rented points for a couple of years before I bought my own contract. And clearly I still use them when I run out of my own points, which would never happen. I would never use up all of my own points and then need to get augmented through somebody else. Of course, that's a flat out lie, and I use rental services all the time. So I thought, why not? Let's make a video about it. Let's cover some of those big questions. And the first one that we're going to dive into is it legal? This is a question that's kind of funny because I actually had the same thought or the same question before we started renting our own points through David's Vacation Club. And there are a couple of different services out there. David's is just the one that I prefer to use, and I've worked with them for a couple of years now as a customer. So that's who I'm going to talk about with my own experience. And like I said, it's a funny question. And the answer is yes, because DVC is a real estate transaction, right? So you do, as an owner, have the right to rent out your points on occasion. The one caveat there is that DVC has the right to prevent you from buying contracts solely for the purpose of as a business, right? They don't want you buying points through them and then making money, for the sole purpose of renting them. So if you are an owner and you occasionally have points that you aren't going to use because something's going on in your family for whatever reason the circumstance might be, if there's the points that are going spare, you can then contact one of the rental services. There are a bunch out there, and say, hey, I've got these points, and then you as a consumer can rent those points directly from the DVC member. So yes, it is absolutely legal, but Disney does have the right to kind of prevent you from running it as a business model. So if you rent points, you're going to be renting points from an actual family, an actual member who bought directly through Disney or bought their contract on resale. The next question that people often want to know is renting DVC points worth it? And again, I'm going to say absolutely, and I'll tell you why. So renting DVC points, you're basically able to get, and of course this is a general statement depending on the time of year and the type of room, but you're basically able to get a deluxe villa accommodation, which has its own amenities, right, for the price of what would either be a value or a moderate cash room depending on the time of year. And let's take Boardwalk, for example. This is one of my favorite examples to use because Boardwalk has such a wonderful point chart. So in January, you can get a studio over at Boardwalk Villas starting at 9 vacation clubs points per night, If you rent through, let's say David's or one of the other services, right, you're going to pay, I'm just talking about right now. Let's say that you booked it, you'd pay roughly $21 per point, right? If you work that out, you're paying about $200 a night for a room at Boardwalk. If you paid cash through Disney, it would be like $550 per night. So that is a huge savings. It's very rare for a cash room for Disney to offer a 50% off cash room discount. They do offer discounts, of course, and you should always take those up. I know I love a good discount, and I always try and book with those whenever I can, but you're rarely going to be able to touch the price that you'd be able to get it if you were renting. The caveat to that, of course, because everything has pros and cons, right, is that if you do a rental, it's a lot more inflexible. So if you book a cash room, right, Disney has their own cancellation policy, of course, but you can pretty much cancel or change up to a couple of days before your visit, right, if something comes up. If you rent points, because of the arrangement with the rental service kind of being the middleman between you and the member that you're renting from, once they've taken those points and booked the reservation for the member, they've already had to pay the member, right? So if you think you might need to cancel after renting, you definitely want to make sure you have travel insurance. That way you're protected, right? If something comes up, hopefully nothing would come up and you'd be able to come and have your magical Disney vacation, but that's just something to think about just because of kind of the unique situation that renting points provides. So if you really need like a lot of flexibility, then definitely get insurance, and/or you might want to stick with a cash room. The other thing that I want to mention, kind of as a not a con, but something that kind of weighs out the fact that you are getting such good prices that do make it worth it, in my opinion, is that you do need to try and book as early as possible when you're renting DVC points. Because when it comes to DVC, if you're not a member already, if you're a member, you'll know this. It definitely, the earlier you book, the more availability there's going to be. As a DVC member, you can book at your home resort where you have priority up to 11 months in advance. And then you can book at all of the other DVC resorts at 7 months. So the closer you get to that 7 months, or even less than 7 months, there's going to be less and less options available to you. So if you have something that you definitely know you want to stay at, a particular room for a particular date, I always recommend getting that reservation and or that request into the service as quickly as possible, as early as possible. So if you're a last minute Sally, if that's you, that's just how your life works, then renting DVC points is going to become a little bit more difficult for you. Not impossible, but you're definitely going to have to be flexible the closer you get based on the room size that you're looking for and your dates and the resort that you're looking for as well. The third question is, how does the DVC rental process work? So I'm going to talk about David's Vacation Club because that's the one that I've had the most experience with. Most of the services, of course there are others, most of the services are very similar, so we're just going to talk in generalities here. But step one is going to seem obvious, I'm going to say it anyway, is that you need to figure out where you want to stay, in what size accommodation, and when. If you are already a DVC member, you're going to have an advantage with this because you'll be able to log in to your Disney Vacation Club account and you'll be able to check the availability, right? So then you can, if you're renting points like me as a member, you'll be able to put in your request with David's or another service based on what you're already seeing availability for, right? And of course, DVC availability changes minute to minute, but you do get kind of an advantage there. If you are not currently a member, then you're kind of have to take your best guess based on what's going to be available depending on how early you're booking. As a general statement, the studios are some of the hardest or the most competitive rooms to get because they have the best kind of ratio to points versus like a one bedroom, for example. A lot of the studios will sleep 5 people, for example, which is the same as what most of the one bedrooms will sleep these days. But the one bedroom is obviously going to be almost double the points to a studio. Of course, you do get extra amenities. I personally love a one bedroom. Like I love the laundry, I love the kitchen. If you've seen my tours, you know how I feel about one bedrooms. But because of that, a lot of DVC members do try and be, I'm going to use the term point misery, and we've all been there. We all sometimes want to stretch our points, right? So these studios are a bit more competitive. The one bedrooms are, generally speaking, some of the least competitive room sizes. And there are certainly resorts that are generally more available the closer that you're booking. So Saratoga, which is where I'm still sitting now, tends to have a lot of availability closer to, just because it's a massive resort, right? And then even some of the more competitive resorts will have a bit more or less availability depending on the selections that you choose. So over at Boardwalk, another one of my personal favorites. Of course, I've got links on all of these that I'll put above and below for you, but over at Boardwalk, for example, the standard view and the preferred Boardwalk view tend to be really competitive, but if you're at 7 months and you're gonna put in for, say, a garden view, there tends to be a lot more availability there. Same thing over at, say, Bay Lake. If you're looking to be on the monorail loop, Bay Lake's Lake View rooms, it's the largest category of views over at Bay Lake. About 70% of the resort is classified as lake view. So if you're putting in a lake view request, you have a greater chance of the availability there versus, say, a theme park view or a standard view. There are, of course, lots of resources on that. That's just two I wanted to point out, because if you're not a member, like I said, you're taking your best guess. So decide where you want to stay roughly. The nice thing about a lot of these services, including David's, is that you can put in multiple options, right? So you can say, this is my first choice and this is my alternate choice if that's not available. So you've decided where you want to stay. The next thing you're going to do, your first official step to renting, is that you're going to put in the online request form, right? As I said, make sure that you include an alternate as well. You will need to pay a small deposit to secure the room if it is available, right? And if they can't match you with the room that you want or one of the choices that you gave them, that will be refundable, so don't worry about that. You put in the request form, you'll get an email very shortly after. As I said, my experience has been with David's, and they have been super quick, super prompt. Great service. If the room that you want is available, you're going to get a confirmation email, which is like, yay, confetti, right? It's like, we've been able to match you with the room that you asked for, right? And then they give you a confirmation number that you can then go into your Disney experience and verify that that's the room that you asked for the dates that you asked for, and that everything looks good and it's what you thought you were getting. If they're unable to match you, they will respond to you and say, we couldn't give you this room that you asked for, but this is what is available, either with slightly different dates or at a different resort or maybe a different room size. You can then decide if you want to move forward with one of the other options that they're giving you based on availability, or you could say, no, none of those work for me, and they will refund your deposit. Let's say that they've been able to match you, or they gave you an alternate that you said, yes, that sounds great. You're then going to have to pay the full balance due. So that is something to be aware of. Of course, since you're renting through a third party, you're not going to be able to use like Disney gift cards or anything like that. It seems obvious, but it's just something that I wanted to point out. You've got your confirmation email, you've paid the balance, you've had your invoice, you've read your rental agreement, right? Now you're going to upload that confirmation number to your Disney experience, and you're going to do the regular check-in process, online check-in, as you would as if you had booked it on your own vacation club points. It's that easy, folks. You just go through that process, and then you'll find yourself, like me, sitting here back on property using Disney Vacation Club points that you rented. And it's a wonderful resource for non-members, certainly, and members who may or may not have run out of their own DVC points. There are several reputable companies out there. As I've mentioned a couple of times, I use David's Vacation Club. I'm just speaking to my own personal experience. I used them before I was a member. It's kind of like a gateway drug, if you will, excuse the term, into becoming a member myself, right? And I still use them now whenever I need to top up my own vacation club points. I'm going to mention it, I hate to ask, but if you do want to support the channel so that I can film more DVC room tours for you or deluxe room tours for you, I do have an affiliate link in the description below. I know, please, if that makes you feel uncomfortable in any way, do not do that and just go to dvcrequest.com if you feel weird. If you do want to support the channel, the link is going to be in the description box below. I recommend them either way, so it's really your choice and no pressure. It's just something I wanted to point out because a couple of people have asked. Now I want to know, have you ever done a DVC rental before? Did it work for you? Did it not work for you? Do you have any other questions on renting DVC points? If you do, please let me know in the comments below and I will absolutely answer you. If you want to check out any of the DVC room tours, and that's what we do here, so there's a lot of videos, I will put links to those above and below for your convenience. Let me know if you have any questions. I really appreciate you watching this. Thank you so much, and I will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.